He is a he's not a MacGuffin, but he's a MacGuffin directioner. He is a guidebook. He's a Sherpa to the MacGuffin.
Yes. Sure. I accept that. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
And this is David, and today I finally watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
So when I first watched Hitchhiker's Guide, I think I was shown this, like at least a part of this film in sixth grade in like a science class or something. I think it was explained to me that this was like an adaptation to like an 80s show, which was an adaptation to the radio play, which was an adaptation to the book, all written by the same guy. And then I just remember the only thing I remember from back then is my science teacher being like, yeah, the movie is fine, but it like doesn't compare to the show. But honestly, I'm not watching like a Doctor Who-esque BBC show from like that long ago. I don't have the patience for that. So I watched this like hour 45 movie and yeah, I mean it's really funny. I really like it. I think like the comedy is kind of witty and on par with like our sense of humor. Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was very funny. I was kind of playing coy with you before we started because you asked me, and I was like, "Oh, I'll let you know. I'll tell talk about it on the podcast." And I told my wife earlier that I was like, "This movie hasn't aged very well, just the way it looks." And she was like, "Well, that's science fiction movies, and that makes sense too, right?" But I think so. The jokes work for me. I think the acting's fine. I think Martin Freeman's playing like a very similar character to what he plays a lot. But like the movie isn't very visually appealing to me, just because like the aliens that are like are in like these block ships. It's all very drab and like I don't know. It just didn't look that good to me. But that I mean, it's 17 years old. But overall, I like I said it was very funny. I love Stephen Fry as the narrator. Like if I had written down everything he said, like all of it was hilarious, and all of it was like, but it would have just taken me forever, and like we would have to go over every line. But that part was really good.
You
It's just
you didn't think the Vogons were attractive?
I don't want to fuck the Vogons. No, that was not.
The I think because this movie based on the book, and the book was so big, right? The book was like super popular, and like so many things came out of the book. This actually apparently is adapted to the book, like as far as like the rules of the world go, but has nothing to do with the story in the book. But the author of the book did help write the screenplay and like make this movie narratively cohesive. So we still have that authenticity without it actually being like anything from the book.
Right, and that's what I was curious. I asked Ashley, and she said, I was like, is this written kind of like a guidebook in the same way, like if you've ever read World War Z, the movie, there isn't a movie in that book.
Right.
So the fact that they're able to make one, it kind of had to be made up after the fact. And this, I was like, is this similar? And she's like, well, there is sort of a narrative story, but it's just, told in the way of a guidebook. Um, I don't know that I'll read it, but maybe.
Maybe. I mean, eh, the movie's entertaining enough, and because I think the popularity of this movie is, or at least with the book, is so big. Unfortunately, the author passed away, I think, in 2001, and this movie came out in 2005. But this movie was like in production hell forever, um, for various. Oh, you know what? One of the reasons is I found pretty cool is that this movie was going to get made by the same producers as Ghostbusters. And then Dan Aykroyd was like, I have this screenplay, and it was Ghostbusters. And they're like, yeah, let's make that instead.
That's funny. Do you know the three other movies that this director, Garth Jennings, has directed in his life, besides Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, what?
So he does a lot of music videos. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was his first movie. He then did Son of Rambo and then Sing and Sing 2
Oh my god.
are
Wow.
the four movies that he's directed.
What is the Son of Rambo about?
It's in the title.
No, but I
It's
mean,
about a little kid who thinks he's Rambo. I don't know. I'm not going to go read it to you. It's not good.
okay, it's not like the son of Sylvester Stallone's Rambo. It's just like a fucking fictitious thing. Not saying Rambo is real, but yeah. I guess there's not a
Are you
question.
asking me a question?
I was, but never mind. It's not important. So we start out right. We start out with Martin Freeman waking up, and his house is going to be bulldozed. Which is, you think that's a metaphor for what happened to Earth?
I think it's a funny like turn of events. I don't know if it's a metaphor. Is it a simile?
It's a
Is it
yeah.
onomatopoeia?
No, it's definitely
I
not
um
that.
I like the turn of it though. I mean, you skipped over the singing dolphins in the beginning that fly off the planet,
Oh
but
shit! Yes, yes.
which is a very funny song that describing that humans are the third funniest people behind dolphins, and we never get told who's number one, but I guess we assume at the end it's the mice.
Right.
Um, that's all good, but yeah, the being demolished for the bypass, and then at the time his name was, he went by Most Def, but now Yassine Bey being in this, I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Because I think this is around the time that he was doing quite a bit of acting, like in some bigger movies.
Is there a reason he changed his name, or is it just a branding thing?
Yassine Bey is his real name, I believe. And then Mos Def was his rap name, and then he just decided to stop going by his rap name. But what's funny is he did, not funny, but interesting and proving my point, is he did the Italian Job in 2003. He did The Woodsman in 2004, but he did Hitchhiker's Guide in 2005, and then 16 Blocks in 2006. So like he went on this little run of doing a ton of like all those are pretty good too. So um
I remember
it was
seeing
nice.
16 Blocks, and he to me he's always one of those actors that's like, he's so good in his role or whatever he's playing. And I'm kind of referencing 16 Blocks particularly. He seemed like a guy who just stumbled upon set, and they're like, "Oh, wow, he's kind of, weird or whatever." It's like, just we're gonna play him, and he's just gonna go. And then it's like, I don't know. He's something about him. He's like a guy who just stumbles on set and then is just extraordinarily good at acting. And I guess that's just saying he's just comes off very natural in whatever he plays.
Yeah, you're complimenting him in a very weird way, but I get it. He I'm surprised I haven't seen him in anything. I'm looking at his thing. I guess the last thing I saw that he was in was Begin Again, and then he hasn't really done anything since then. So it's kind of interesting because he is so good. Like in this, he's so good, right? He's playing like a weird. I I love when they go to the bar and he's like, "Yeah, I'm an alien." Wasn't it pretty obvious when I tried to shake the hand of that car? And they just show him like waving at a car that's about to kill him.
Fun fact is that that car is a Ford Prefect, which is his Earth
Oh,
name. Yeah.
that's funny. I like the he shows up and gives them beer, and he's like, "Well, come to the bar with me." And Martin Freeman's like, "Well, how do you know they're not going to show my house?" He's like, "Oh, they promised they would wait. I trust what does he say? He's like, I trust them to the end of the world." And he's like, which is only 12 minutes away anyway.
Yeah. 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 And then he gets to the bar, and I like where I guess the salt from the peanuts and the carbs from the beer helps with like the teleportation with the hitchhikers or whatever. But he buys everyone in the bar around, right? And then that's when the bartender actually started believing him, that he's like, oh, it's the end of the world. It's like, should we lay down and put paper bags over our head? He's like, sure. He's like, is it gonna help? Nope.
And then there's a flashback later on as the world's ending and you see them doing it.
Yeah.
I I one thing about this movie is there's a lot of stuff in it that is unexplained and almost would have to be something that was probably in the book.
Like what?
Like the salt in the beer, it's not really explained. Why is he carrying a towel around the whole time? Because we never see it used in
Because the
like a very
Vogons are terrified of towels.
yeah, I guess. But it's just like you would think it'd be I think it's something that would probably be more explained in the book than it is here. A lot of the things seem like just kind of added because they are part of the book, right? Like the movie's made a little bit for people who have read the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And next we get the flashback where we meet Zoe Deschanel.
Yes, whom I forgot was in this movie, who also plays a character that's a lot like all the other characters she plays. Kind of this like doe-eyed love interest of the unassuming guy, um, who ditches them at a party.
And Sam Rockwell is the one she ditches him for, and he plays a different character in almost everything he does.
Sam Rockwell is great. You know how many people were vying for that part? And the only reason that he got that part, well, I mean, Garth Jennings really liked him in the audition, right?
Okay.
Um, but the people who were going for that part were Bill Murray, Robert Downey Jr., Will Ferrell, and Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp would have been good, although less funny. Like Sam Rockwell just has this kind of crazy energy that I don't think a lot of other people have, honestly. Like it's a very specific thing.
Yeah,
Uh
that's true.
Bill Murray's maybe a little too old, and then he also just doesn't have that. I don't know. I don't. Once you see Sam Rockwell in a character, it's hard to see someone else do it. Like it's just gonna be different if someone
He
else handles it.
I mean, it's definitely a different kind of role, especially with like the two personalities. And we don't really see much of the second personality, but that kind of like switch. Um, he says he uses a mixture of like Bill Clinton and Vince Vaughn to impersonate that character. Um, a lot of people were commenting back in 2005 that that character reminded them of like George W. Bush, which is funny because he then eventually does play George W. Bush in
I,
Vice.
I kind of wondered how they did that. Really, it almost seemed like he moved his head back, and there was a. At first, it looked like it was like a green screen. Like I couldn't tell like how they made it happen. It looked really weird.
Well, it's back to what you were saying about how maybe the movie hasn't aged greatly in the look of it, right? Because he moves his head back to like an alarming uh, angle, and then his other face looks like warped in. I don't know. And is it maybe? I don't know. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. So then he gets his house torn down. I My favorite part of the house getting torn down is the fact that the highway is nowhere near his house. And so there's no reason that this had to be done today. There's not a
That,
highway in any direction that you can visibly see. And they're like, but we have to tear down your house today.
well, bypasses have to be made, David.
Yeah. And then obviously the parallel to when the aliens come and they're like, oh, we're doing a intergalactic freeway right through here. But one thing about this movie is the entire Earth gets destroyed with it's like 6 to 7 million people, and like the most angry anybody gets is like, oh, how could you do that? You didn't even read the form you signed when you agreed to have this blown up. It's like totally so off, but which is explained by the end of the movie when like a magic thing happens and everyone's back.
Is everyone back? Because it really feels like they started over. Like the Earth is back and it's in the same place as it was, but it just feels like they kind of Adam and Eve did all over again.
Well, no, they just show a quick bit of like everyone in the bar like reappearing.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's right.
so that's your way of knowing like all the humans are back too. So it's like and they're all back in their same position. So it's like literally nothing happened, right? Like this big.
Wha- Yeah, but then again, like Martin Freeman's character Arthur, he grew, right? That was his character arc when he was like to Zoe Deschanel. He was like, "I'm feeling kind of peckish. Let's go to the restaurant at the end of the universe." Right? That was his like. He wouldn't go to Madagascar. He was kind of a recluse in the beginning, and now he's like, "Let's fucking go on an adventure." Right?
I don't think because you meet a woman one night who wants to go to Madagascar and you're unwilling to quit your job that makes you a recluse.
Okay, fine. That's
Also, I don't
very
have a problem with. I don't mind the ending. I'm just saying it explains why the tone of like why everyone's not really really sad.
well. You say that, but Zoe Deschanel seems really fucking like traumatized by it.
She got over it pretty quickly.
Eh. Um, with I okay, the only thing I kind of don't like about the movie is that we don't have enough scenes with Sam Rockwell and John Malkovich.
Elton John.
I'd like to see more John Malkovich and Sam Rockwell together in this movie as the
What do you
characters
think
they
that was?
play.
Maybe 2 days for John Malkovich on this movie, if
Okay,
that.
you have to admit the robot arm like body thing, that was pretty cool.
It looked like a mini version of Wild Wild West.
Which came first? I'm pretty sure
Wild Wild
this.
West.
Oh, okay.
Wild Wild West, I think, is in the 90s. I was watching that when I was
No.
a wee lad.
Yeah, I remember liking it, and then I grew a brain.
I
So,
didn't 1999. I didn't
oh
argue about
wow,
the value of the movie. I just said it came first.
I know you're not arguing about the value of the movie. I just want to make it clear to our audience that we both think that movie is trash.
I mean, Will Smith could have been in The Matrix, but instead he made Wild Wild West. He did that for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Next,
that's
we're
true.
on a Vogon ship.
Yeah, and here's I think where you would say like the ugly part of it. It's not just because the Vogons, but the whole design of the ship, and I mean maybe that's on purpose because of who the Vogons are with their lack of ideas and imagination. But everything is just so bleh in like the Vogon world, you know.
Yeah, and this reminded me a lot of Futurama, which obviously Futurama probably took some from this, but just the idea of bureaucracy and like how funny it can be. You know, a lot of movies have done this, even like Zootopia with the DMV and how slow it is. But there's like a lot of good jokes about like, did they file their fleeing form like as someone's like escaping from them and like, oh man, it's like, oh, now I'm gonna chase after them, and then a bell goes off. He's like, well, hour for lunch. I'm gonna get soup.
And then the councilwoman or whoever is like the right hand woman for the president of the galaxy is like not like in par with this. So she's always like that. That's like our audience reaction, right? It's like she's appalled by them doing these bureaucratic things. My favorite joke of this is um, when they are in the long line to release Zoe Deschanel, and uh, Martin Freeman is like, "Don't worry, I'm British. I know how to queue."
Well, yeah, but then the joke of like, oh, I filled out the form. Oh, she can't be pardoned. He's like, well, the president here is here. She's like, well, this isn't a presidential pardon. That's a blue form. He has to go like fill it out again.
In like the nick of time before she dies. Yeah.
I like I like the use of the narration too in the Vogon ship part explaining all that. Like I think it's really well done. It also just feels like it came straight from the book, right? Like you can almost like mentally imagine the way the book looked.
Anything with
And yeah, they
the
put like these graphics on the screen.
anything with the cartoons is, I think, pretty much the book.
Right. Um and also the Babelfish, is this where the idea of a Babelfish came was from this book and this movie?
No, I don't think so. I think, well, obviously, the Tower of Babel. right?
Yeah, yeah.
Was the
I get it,
Bible.
but there were no fish involved in that. But because the idea of having like a device called a Babel fish now, where it can like change, you can understand different languages. I was just wondering if that like if this was where the idea of like the Babel fish came from. It's not really important. I My favorite part of this is when after they read them the poetry and Martin Freeman says it's really good. He's like, throw them off the ship. There's this point where they're in this little cargo hold that's about to drop them out into space. And Martin Freeman's like, we're gonna die. And Yassine Bey is like, yeah, wait, hold on, what's this? No, yeah, we're gonna die.
So I just looked it up, and this actually did inspire the Babelfish webpage that you were talking about.
There you go.
There you
There
go.
you go. Um, and then the narration picks up again with like the probability, and it's the same. The probability is like 2 to the same power as the phone number of the place where he totally blew it with Trisha.
Right, right. Every time that they like warped to a different place in space and they were like a different thing, like they were like the yarn people and the flowers and whatever, it always reminded me of like those episodes of Community where like one episode they're just puppets or something like that.
The yarn one specifically, and then he throws up the yarn. Absolutely, yeah. Like maybe Community stole a little bit from this. Um, so then you find out that Ford and Rockwell are cousins. I can't say Rockwell's like real name because it's just like, what is it?
Zaphod.
Yeah, so Sam Rockwell and Ford are cousins, and then Trillian's on the ship. I did not expect to see Zoe Deschanel again in this movie. I thought it was just going to be like
She was a
that little
one-off.
part. Yeah, that little part, and it was gonna. Although I guess when I saw Rockwell in the beginning, I did know that he was an alien in that flashback. But yeah, that was surprising to me that she was there.
I think in an original script, they wanted to make her part alien, so it would feel more natural for her to be there. But then they nixed it because they were like, "Why does this have to start making sense now?" You know?
That's a great point. I also thought in this moment the way he talked, the way Martin Freeman talked to her was like kind of pathetic. Like he was getting mad at her, a woman he met once, for like ditching him for some other guy that has a
Right.
spaceship and king of the universe or president.
Um. Yeah. Which them explaining the whole election of that is very confusing. I don't know. I don't quite know how. I know they explained it, but I still don't even quite know how that happened.
Yeah, I'm not. I think all we need to know is that he won, and then he immediately kidnaps himself, which really throws all the Vogons off, obviously, and then steals this powerful ship.
And he won the election against Huvana, whatever, John Malkovich's character.
Yeah,
Hummus?
Hummakavula.
There it is.
What did you think of the Deep Thought planet?
I like how Deep Thought is a Mac.
Is it?
Yeah, you didn't see the Mac, the Apple symbol behind it on its back.
No, I didn't. I must have missed that.
Yeah. Um I don't know. I mean, like what I thought about the planet or what I thought about Deep Thought, like the computer.
Just the idea of it, that part of the movie.
I think that's like the whole meme, right? I mean, I don't even know if it's a meme, but like that's the whole like what everyone remembers the movie is the answer to the life, the universe, and everything is 42.
I really expected that to be super late in the movie. We were going to get that.
You know when it was? It was
What?
exactly at the 42-minute mark.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
You like that, don't you?
So instead of making a cohesive story, they're just going to put a bunch of stuff in there.
Welcome to this movie.
Yeah. And also she's like, In 7.5 million years, I'll tell you the answer. And then all these people show up cheering. She's like, 42.
But my favorite part of that is when they're showing okay, who is it? Sam Rockwell is showing them Ford and Arthur and Trillian the video, right? And our Arthur says something like, "Oh, we're coming back in uh, they want them to come back in 7.5 million years." And then Sam Rockwell turns and he's like, "Oh, they did."
Right? Yeah, no, he's good.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently the 42 thing, this was very famous in the book. This was in the book, by the way. This was in the radio play. This is like the big thing that everyone takes from this series is that the answer to the life, the universe, and everything is 42. Apparently, it's because something happened on October 10th, 2010. Not because of the book was written, but something did happen on that date. It's so stupid. The binary code for 42 is 101010. So some newspaper made a huge thing about it on October 10th, 2010. Why it was 42 originally, I don't know.
So besides 42, the other like thing that I knew about this movie, and I didn't know it came from this movie, but the line of like, in the beginning, the universe was created, and everyone unanimously decided this was a bad move.
Uh-huh.
I've seen like several times, and there's a really great line in this. And then like it's basically from this point, it's like just kind of like they're traveling, trying to find the one planet to to get the question to the answer, right? So they stop at John Malkovich's planet, and he's like, "Oh, I need a gun, so get this gun." Which that character is totally only in this so that they look for the gun and grab it because they need it later, right? Like he's unimportant otherwise.
Of course. Yeah.
He is he's not a MacGuffin, but he's a MacGuffin directioner. He is a guidebook. He's a Sherpa to the MacGuffin.
Yes. Sure. I accept that.
Like it. I love too, like after they leave John Malkovich, they're trying to get out of there. The Vogons are there, and what's her name? Trisha like takes the president, Sam Rockwell, and like has an aerosol can next to him, and they're like, "Could that kill him?" And the woman's like, "I don't think so. It's just an aerosol can," and they like immediately take her.
Yeah. There's a lot of just funny shit in this movie. Like you were saying, it doesn't cohesively make sense, but it's just like enough to be funny. It's almost like a sci-fi Monty Python in a way.
It had a lot of feel to me of Spaceballs.
Yeah, but at least there's more cohesive. I've never seen Spaceballs, but I'm guessing there's more cohesive story in Spaceballs than this.
It's Star Wars, so
There you go.
Rockwell wants to still go to what Magrathea. I don't know how to say it. Magrathea.
Nah, that seems wrong.
But instead, your boy
Arthur
Freeman takes over and is like, "Nah, we're going after my girl, Zoe Deschanel, Trisha, Trillian, McMillian." I can keep going.
So they get there, and the slappy things. It took me a second. I mean, I've seen this movie, but it took me a second to kind of be like, "Oh, why are they slapping him?" It's like, "Oh, every time he has an idea," and I kind of love that because the Vogons are void of original ideas, and so those slappy things would never hurt a Vogon, but then anything else on the planet, boom, right?
Yeah. That my also, and this is like obviously a staple of comedy, but Zoe Deschanel, who in their right mind gives an order to destroy a planet and just cuts the Sam Rockwell, which is like not something we as the audience knew. That's them telling us. So in the joke, they're telling us that this idiot did this.
Yeah, and then when you see the signature is an autograph, and then she's like, you know, fucking idiot, you thought someone was giving you like you thought you were giving an autograph and you were signing orders, you know?
Right. I also like in the narration comes up like as she's about to die, but obviously she doesn't. We talked about that. But the narration's like, you know, if you die, then you should just spend the time considering how good your life was, and you know, and that'll make you happy. But if you didn't have a good life, then well, hey, at least it's coming to an end.
Yeah. Oh man, so many good one-liners in this film. Um, Speaking of which, we are introduced to well, they save Trisha, obviously, and we kind of talked about the long line and everything like that. But then they finally made it to Magathria. Oh fuck it, whatever. And then they meet Bill Nye.
But before you meet Bill Nye, I love the voicemail from the planet, and specifically the "we're sending 2 missiles at you, and your death may be monitored for training purposes" is so fucking good.
And then the ship is like, I think I'm going to take evasive action now.
It's like, oh shit, I can't. All right, well, I got to put you guys in charge.
Uh, I feel like I'm missing a plot point, right? Because they go to the John Malkovich planet, right? And then um, they get the MacGuffin of getting the gun, right?
Right.
Sent on the quest to get the gun, because if they get the gun, then they can get the coordinates to planet. Um,
If they agree to get the gun, then he'll give them coordinates to get to the planet. But you're wondering why they went to the planet?
yeah,
Because Magrathea is where he would then get to the portal that would take him to Deep Thought, and then he could ask Deep Thought, uh, you know,
oh
what's the
no, no, no,
question that the
that's
answer
right.
is 42 to?
That's right. That's right. And that's where, because Martin Freeman is too scared to go through the portal. That's when he meets Bill Nye. That's right. Mhm.
Yeah, and as he's like Zoe Deschanel runs through, and then the other two run through, I'm like, he's gonna miss it. It's gonna turn off, and of course it does. You know, because he takes like a second too long, and I love like even knowing it's about to happen, the payoff is really funny as he just goes through it and it's gone.
I like how they're just like engine jets or whatever, but they look
Right.
like turbines. And then yeah, Bill Nye shows up. Uh, while he's with like Bill Nye, the three of them are in the planet 42, and she's like, this is one of my favorite parts of the movie. She's watching like a cartoon, right? She's so fucking bored. You know that's Helen Mirren, by the way.
I did.
Okay. Um, my favorite thing is it's revealed that she built a planet to sustain the knowledge, the technology to come up with the question. And it was Earth. And Sam Rockwell blew it up. But that was the thing he was looking for. So he ruined himself in his own stupidity.
Right. Well, so and while all that's happening, right? That you know, after Deep Thought tells them that they then go down and get the gun, and they're like shooting it at each other so that they get the gun lets you shoot it at someone and then they understand your point of view. I love the joke too where Zoe Chanel is about to get shot with it and she's like, I'm a woman, it won't change anything, because like they understand other people's points of views. But so then they like disappeared down this cave, right? And I was like, oh, well, what happened to them? And while all that's going on, Bill Nye is basically explaining to Arthur that, like, oh, we shows it to him, and then going through the factory is cool. Like that's visually, that part is really like stunningly
It's
beautiful.
awesome.
The factory and then Earth and going all around it as people are building it. That is great. And I also love too, like Bill Nye at one point says the best laid plans of mice, and then Arthur goes, and men. He's like, and Bill Nye's like, no, just the mice.
That's when
Um,
you find out that the
yeah, but
mice is the most intelligent people.
so then Bill Nye takes him to his house and it looks exactly the same. There's people still working on it. And when he goes inside, I thought these were like fake Zoe Deschanel, Sam Rockwell, and Yassine Bey. I was like, what is this? This is like, why are they there? Because they were
It could
acting
be.
weird too. So I thought it was like a trick.
It could be, right? In like the expanding universe of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, those are clones, and the real ones are still on the Deep Thought planet.
Stuck for eternity.
Oh, okay. Well, before you said, I just really wanted to say the only way you know for sure that that is them is because the gun is there too.
Well, yeah, but I didn't notice that. So, um, but I like the last scene, with the mice and then they're basically going to chop into Martin Freeman's head, and he just
Right.
spouts off a bunch of things, and they're like, "Oh, that's a good question," because they want the question to, the universal question that the answer to 42 is. Um, and then he keeps talking and he's like, but the only question in my head is like, is this woman perfect for me? Is this the one I'm meant to be with? And the answer is yes. And that the answer is not 42 to that question. They're like, oh, well, that's stupid. And they start to chop his head again.
Right. And then he like breaks free and then smashes them, and then it's revealed that they're the children from the Deep Thought planet.
Yeah, which was odd. But I guess some connective tissue to the movie. And yeah, and then it ends with him just basically deciding like, oh, he now wants to travel. That's the arc of, he doesn't need to just stay in his little hovel. And we found out earlier that she's in love with him, and so that's kind of the way it ends up.
And there's a huge shootout.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that. The shootout. Yeah, and then Alan Rickman gets shot in the back of the head. Yeah, all that happened too. Forgot about that. The Vogons show up. We finally get to see the towels in use too.
Yep. Yeah. But I feel like some parts of this movie that we do gloss over that are, I guess, in the spectrum of this universe important. Everything in the end doesn't really matter, right? Everything gets restored, everyone's fine, and then they go to a restaurant at the end of the movie. So
I like to Alan Rickman. No one listens to me, but that restaurant's on the opposite side of the universe. And the ship just stops and turns back around.
I mean, look, I think there's some thought-provoking stuff in here. I think it's mainly just kind of funny and silly, and like I just took it as this really entertaining film. I'm sure like the actual book and radio play or like better adaptations of the book are more thought-provoking, but I feel like this is just a really fun movie. I mean, it entertained me.
Oh yeah, me as well. I thought it was very funny. And like I at least now I know who's actually in this movie, so I can converse about it
Right.
a little more. I thought I would learn more about 42. I did not.
I don't think anyone did. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
And this is David, and I finally watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.